Hello, my name's Gary. I'm excited to share a project I've been working on for the Agentic project for Google and Kaggle. I've really learned quite a bit in this course and kind of understanding how various aspects of agentic workflows can work together. And so the problem I wanted to tackle was related to email newsletters. Basically, I get a lot of newsletters. I'm a product manager. I'm interested in staying up to date on tech, on news, and I'm just a curious person. So I get a lot of newsletters, and sometimes it can be challenging to read all of them or to understand how the content in one newsletter relates to another newsletter. They can be very isolated. And so the idea of email threads and how to like understand and have insight across them is what came up with this project name called cross-threaded. So basically, I've been labeling my Gmail newsletters, for a while with the term newsletter. And the tools I use in this project probably could be used for multiple labels or for different labels, but I just really zeroed in on this label that I had created called newsletters. And so my newsletter label, I apply to various content I get from different people. Sometimes I get content from individual creators in maybe a Substack. Sometimes I get content from a daily newsletter like TLDR or Morning Brew. I'm subscribed to some, bigger publications like New York Times, a magazine here like Dwell, or even user-produced content like Medium Daily Digest. All of these are interesting information and often report on the same stories or same kind of topic but from different angles. And so how to like connect those and aggregate those across the threads is really the problem that I wanted to tackle. So let's take a look at what I built, and then I'll go more into kind of how it was built. But basically, at the top here, you can see the cross-threaded newsletter navigator. You can select kind of how far you want to go back. Right now, I'm working on some performance issues, so I just limited it to 12, 24, or 48 hours, and the number of maximum emails you want to process. Then the user goes ahead and runs the pipeline. I'm not going to do that right now. It takes a little while, but you can see last time it was ran, it processed 29 emails, which actually produced 142 clusters. And what the clusters represent are, you'll also hear me refer to them as blurbs. They're the individual pieces of content. So a particular email message might have, multiple pieces of content. If we look here at the email log, I can kind of demonstrate that here. Here you see a TLDR. Each one of these bullet points represents an atomic unit of content that I've then tagged. And I take these atomic units of content and there might be multiple ones across newsletters kind of aimed in the same area, and those are going to create a cluster. So here we can see a really big, well, let's pick on this one. Here's a smaller cluster with 9 stories related to drones and rules and privacy in the future of warfare. You can see most of these are coming from the New York Times. So that's something that you know, they're referencing a lot, which is informative of itself, right? When things are coming from multiple sources, it's sometimes more interesting versus recognizing that, hey, this is really something that one publication is highlighting a lot. Here's a bunch of climate stories from New York Times, and it's also interesting to see them repeat this story with different messages since I get multiple newsletters. Let's find some other ones here. Uh, Okay, here's one where there are some New York Times content, but there's also some visual capitalist content. And you can see, these have each been kind of summarized per the blurb, but then there's like a master summary, so I can look across them and kind of get the theme of it all. Using these clusters, I then, I'm a big visualization fan, so then I went ahead and put them in a tree map. So I think this is a good way to get just a really broad view of what areas have the most discussion, the most activity. So here we see the big giant, global AI race and all the different pieces from there. Everything from David Shapiro speaking about it, quite a bit of content from him, TLDR has information on it, snacks from Robinhood, the Rundown AI. So I think probably this cluster might be too big, and that might be a future enhancement to kind of narrow it. But based on the clustering, they all are about AI and the future of AI and the impact of AI. And that's just a really broad news source these days. Here we can see another one. This one's interesting. A couple things from Digital Capitalist as well as Chma Pavatia. So very good way to kind of see and connect how things are working across. I've also added some filtering. So if we just wanted to look at politics now, you'll still see the other tag kind of colors generated here. That's because clusters are not tagged with just one label. But here you can see all of these will have the political label and information about them. So super fun way to kind of get that overview. I'm also working on a cards view here. This might just be an easier way to read and understand. This is that summary that is there. But again, you can always go back in and look at the individual sources that are contributing to this. Again, a very New York Times centric cluster there. The last thing I think I did not show was just the processing log. What I found is the pipeline took some time. And so I wanted to kind of see all the steps of the pipeline happening, make sure the user could see all the steps of the pipeline. I know one of the future enhancements I definitely would want to do is parallelize the parsing, as well as possibly the tagging, anything that really doesn't need to be done sequentially. But due to some rate limits and other things, I think for now, sequential was appropriate. All right. So that's a pretty good overview of the app and the tool and how it might be used. Just to give kind of another view here of the architecture and kind of a walkthrough from that level, right? We have the user triggering and interacting with that front end dashboard I just showed you. But then all the magic happens on this back end pipeline where we have an orchestration agent that is going out to the Gmail API and going ahead and pulling back that raw email content. That raw email content is then processed and extracted into those blurbs or those atomic pieces of content within an email message. From there, it's all about organizing it. So we have this library agent that is taking the blurbs and using a sentence transformer tool. Again, this is a kind of a mix of both tools and LLMs. So this tool is bringing back in basically vector embeddings, which the DB scan tool is able to um, figure out what clusters make sense based on those embeddings. And then I have another step just for that visualization where we go ahead and we take the cluster embeddings and the vectors and make it a two-dimensional coordinate. I believe it's like 386 or something, or 384 dimensionality normally in that vector space. But so we can visualize that, we're using that PCA tool. So great. So now we've used a bunch of tools to cluster and organize it. And then last, we're going to tag the clusters so we can relate them to content. One thing I didn't mention in the previous view is there is a setting. So presumably the tags can be customized to how you want to organize them. Um, and fed into this. Uh, then now we've got these tagged clusters bringing back again to the orchestrator agent, and then the orchestrator agent sends it to the synthesis agent, which is basically applying that top level title and summary so it's easily understood by the user. And yeah, I think that kind of gives a good overview of the process. And I'm really, had a lot of fun learning, how these agentic workflows work. I went ahead and I used anti-gravity for a lot of the development and collaboration as my IDE, which was also very interesting. And I think this is just a great area to demonstrate it's using, language understanding as well as summarizing and various aspects of the LLM, along with some of these vector and embedding based tools. So I think my newsletter reading will be accelerated and I'll be able to compare across sources. I'm excited to start to use it on a regular basis and see if it makes kind of my in-depth news understanding more efficient and kind of gives me a different perspective.